Welcome to episode 41 of the SNARLcast about indie war games and their design, coming to you from Snarling Badger Studios. I'm Adam, and I'm here with Vince. How you doing, Vince?
I'm doing pretty good, buddy. I'm doing pretty good. My voice is probably a little strange. I don't know. I can hear it. I don't know if everybody else can.
Mm.
I was at a tournament all weekend, as I'll talk about in the what we've been doing or whatever at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of me being at that tournament and in a room with, 200 plus other people, there was a lot of yelling and you tend to lose your voice. So
it was a pretty big tournament? Like 200 people?
Yeah, I was at NashCon over the weekend.
Wow.
Great tournament for all types of gamers. Honestly, lots of smaller games being played there as well.
Nice.
I was there for the Age of Sigmar tournament, which was like 110, 20 people, something like that.
Wow.
But it's in the middle of a room where there's a lot of other games going on as well.
Right.
Many of which are like very small games. It's also in the middle of the vendor room. So like the vendor room at NashCon is interesting. It's the main hall, but it's around the outside.
Sure.
Okay. So like the edge of the room is all of the vendors, this big giant hall.
And all the gaming
in the
goes
middle
on
of
in
the
middle.
room is all the tables where people are playing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, especially with that many people, that can end up being a lot for sure. This episode's topic is about story versus rules and why it matters. So you were at a convention this weekend?
Yes.
And did you have a fancy painted army at that convention, I'm assuming?
I did. I took my Skaven with all the new things I have painted.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good time. I was both I'm very proud of the list I built. It's very different than anything else I've ever seen anybody run in Skaven. And I like building unusual things. And I managed to go 4-1, which
Nice.
was great. I only lost one game, which was to sort of both a great player, an awesome guy from an awesome team. Like I had played his teammate last year in game 5, and that guy eked out a victory on me. So apparently I'm weak to that whole team.
Yeah.
And it was great, by the way. Last year's game was incredible. That dude was awesome as well. Everybody who's in that group, I think they're called Misfortune, I believe. They're from North Carolina, so shout out to them. Awesome group of guys, great games. He showed up with like the exact answer to my list and had the unfortunate quality of being a very good player. Just a terrible combination for me.
Yeah.
So, but otherwise it was good. So I took home the prizes for this tournament. When you win awards are swords, like actual full-size real 440 carbon steel swords, like the real thing. As anybody who you've been in my office, my office is full of weapons and stuff from tournaments.
Right. Yeah.
And so 2 more swords added there. Took home best painted and took home best in my faction, best in my Grand Alliance, best chaos.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So is that the biggest tournament at NashCon?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
There's a lot of other things going on. There was like a Warhammer Fantasy room, and I tried to go in there and figure out if they were actually playing Warhammer Fantasy or if they were playing the Old World. I don't know. There's MCP. There's actually a pretty big MCP tournament. There's pretty nice size battle tech tournament. I mean, by pretty nice size, I mean like probably 20, 30 people, but it's a packed room.
Yeah.
Kings of War and Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings room is really nice. Those dudes all really dig that. And then like just a ton of historical games and just people playing with little airplanes on sticks and stuff like that.
Is it mostly all wargaming or is there also like RPGs?
All wargaming.
Okay, so there's not like RPGs and I mean I'm sure that you guys play Magic at night.
Nope.
Really? Nobody played Magic at all? You guys didn't?
There was a Commander game going on
That's
Friday
what I'm
night.
saying.
I saw it over on the table.
Right.
But like that was just 4 people who brought Commander decks.
Right, but there's not like official
I don't
stuff.
play Magic at this. Yeah,
Okay.
I played Warhammer the night before. That's what I did.
Yeah.
Prep game.
That's pretty cool. What did I do this weekend? I built terrain, worked on terrain, some stuff. On Saturday, me and Sam, our good friend Sam Lenz, we went over to our friend Raven's house. Saturday was the launch, as we're recording of this. Saturday was the launch of the new version of Necromunda, and so Sam and I have been interested in Necromunda for years and rarely ever technically played, even though we both have painted gangs. Raven is more involved in that he's played more than both of us, and he's also got he's got an entire 4x6 foot table of Zone Mortalis tiles, and they're all done to a very high degree. And a lot of them have LED lights in them and battery packs and all kinds of stuff.
That's
it's just
incredible.
Yeah, it's nuts. I need to go over there again and just do a bunch of filming because I think that would be cool. I think that would work out well. But yeah, so did a bit of that on Saturday. But otherwise, yeah, I've just been doing a lot of building. It's funny. I've been building Zone Mortalis tiles, trying to make them into hive stuff for Necromunda. And I've been listening to the Ravnor series on Audible. So, they spend a lot of time in hives and things like that in those books and stuff.
Sure.
So it kind of puts you in the right mindset, I think. So that's been fun. Otherwise, we've got stuff going on. I think Tom is about to start doing some stuff on development for the game in the upcoming episode or issue of Snarl.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to say episode. It's podcast episodes. It's zine issues. Anyway.
Yes. I'm just going through and doing a cleanup pass right now.
Have you done,
before I hand it to him?
I can't remember. Have you done the add-on stuff for other games?
No, not yet.
Okay.
We haven't done the add-on stuff.
Gotcha.
So.
I didn't think so.
I always wait until we see exactly how big the game is going to be, because that sort of sets a little bit of how much of that extra content we can put in there, right?
For sure, yeah. Like if it's like, this is going to be pretty small, then we could put in 2 or 3 things. But if it's like, this is a big one, we could just put in one. I think we did that with, which one was the biggest one we've done so far? Was it
probably
Chrome Rangers?
Was the
biggest
that's what
I thought. Yeah,
and I think this one will end up being pretty close, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I think right now in the document, it's like in our raw document, it's floating at like 26, 27 pages, which probably means it's going to end up at 28 in your in the thing at
the
least.
Layout and all that stuff. Yeah. And I'm reaching out to an artist that I'm looking forward to working with on this project, and we'll see if we get some response back on that. And that's where that stuff's at. I'm supposing you didn't paint anything this weekend, obviously.
No, sadly, having
you had done a whole bunch of that leading up.
Yes, that is correct. I did. But yeah, I had to, leaving Friday morning and then got back super late last night and then working all day today and stuff. So nope. And then my hobby today was working on the zine. Honestly, like I spent probably 4 or 5 hours working on it today. So
I spent a good portion of the after lunch. Well, a little bit of just before lunch, then a bunch of after lunch, working on building terrain. I started today towards just before dinner. I started on my 7th tile for my Zone Mortalis tiles. I have 2 tiles built, painted, rust wash, and now I need to add some more details and some graffiti. I have 2 tiles which are built and painted but don't have rust wash. I have 2 more tiles that are built and are not primed or painted or anything like that. And then I've started a 7th tile, which is just now getting things glued down to it.
It's like an assembly line, like a factory process.
Yeah,
just going down there, kind of Ford style.
Oh yeah. And my hope is before it starts to get real cold outside and stuff like that, to have at least 9 tiles primed and like painted so that I can work on them over the winter and stuff like that. And then I can make.
So is that like a 3x3 board, or are they 1 foot by 1 foot each? Okay.
Yeah, I can make a 3x3 then. My goal is eventually to make a 4x4, but then you're looking at 16 boards. So that's a lot of stuff. It's
kind of a square situation.
Yeah, it is. It's just, but man, oh man, like I'm glad that I can 3D print a lot of the stuff that I'm doing at this point now. And it looks a little different and I'm okay with that. But man, like when I was looking at Raven's board, again, he's got like an entire 4x6 and there's very little of anything that's 3D printed on that, which means it's all store-bought like walls and columns and all those parts, and that stuff's not cheap. So yeah, I'm happy to be able to 3D print some of it. Also, I'll be perfectly honest with you, when I 3D print some of it, then I don't have to build it. Because some of those
100%,
things,
buddy.
like some of that terrain
Preaching to the
is
choir
just
here.
like, God, like there's a piece of terrain I was working on today that's like a ruined wall section. They make ruined wall sections as well as not ruined ones. And trying to put one of those ruined wall sections together, if you don't put it together exactly the right order, it will, as you're trying to glue it together, it will just tumble apart in your hands and then just stick to all of your fingers at once.
Sure.
And then it's just, yeah. So it's really a kind of a pain sometimes, but
you don't got to sell me on the 3D prints. Our viewers are not going to be able to see this, but when I was at NashCon, there is a new event that's running. It ran last year for the first time. It's an AOS narrative game. It's like a big siege battle that runs in 3 games.
That's cool.
And it's in 15 millimeter.
Oh, wow.
So the dude 3D prints custom versions that he's like sculpted or converted of everything, of all the models in the fight, new stuff and old stuff. It's huge, huge. Okay. Like he has this giant table. Like I rocked up and they were doing the castle siege, but there's 3 different sieges that happen.
Yeah.
And he gave me 3 of the prints that he has. One of them is this nice little lady. Like I got like a lady Mega Gargant and like a little shrunk down Mega Gargant. You can like Adam can see them now. They're basically bigger than an ogre. They're about like 54 millimeter size figures.
Sure,
because they're meant to be shrunken down. You know, giant guys.
From the big guys. Yeah.
Yeah. He even gave me a little Kragnos, the little centaur guy.
Oh wow.
And they are adorable and awesome. And exactly like this dude, he handed this to me. This figure in my hand is done. It was printed.
Right. Yeah.
Like this.
No, I know. Yeah, that there is a big benefit to that, at least in my mind. And especially with terrain, because if it's just like pop it off of the plate and then, put it in where you need to go, that's generally way better, in my opinion, at least for me.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the story of games is important, but obviously so are the rules.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a disconnect in many situations between the story and the rules. And if you've been doing this long enough, you know this. But if you haven't, that's something to learn. And also, not everybody, I think, understands why there's such a disconnect as well.
Yeah. So, Adam, I very rarely, so a little behind the scenes. Adam is the hero who does all the editing for this. Okay. He edits out all of my like chair squeaks and stuff like that when I'm moving around while he's talking and such. Because I have the squeakiest chair in the universe. And Adam also picks like the titles and makes the thumbnails. Like he's a hero. He does the heavy lifting. I just show up with like an idea generally, and this one's like 100% mine. I try to do the write up and stuff and take that part. Anyways, but this is one of the few times I think, Adam, I've got a title for you. Okay.
Okay.
The title should just be Space Marines Are a Lie. All right. Like we want to get them clicks.
I mean, that'll be what do you call that? I don't want to say clickbait. It will be one of those things that just kind of pulls people in. Maybe it's a little. I can't think of the word now. It's not ostentatious. It's provocative. That's the word.
There you go.
It's I got there eventually. It's late.
But Space Marines are a lie.
Right.
And that, like, the easiest way to explain this, the difference between what I actually had in my original notes on this in our like topics list was the power fantasy that the game is trying to portray. I'll talk about that a little bit versus the rules. Okay.
Yeah.
So like most games you play are some kind of like power fantasy, right? Not all. Plenty like if you're playing some like co-op Euro game, it's not that kind of thing, like a board game or something, right? But a lot of war games are power fantasies. You're playing this, these ultra, super awesome dudes with like giant guns and firing these massive cannons, and you have this huge monster and you're a big dragon and you move across the battlefield and breathe fire and
well, think about it in video games. Like think about Doom. Yeah. You kill everyone you meet, and you know what I mean. Like, and that's a huge thing. There's a video game that came out a couple of years ago that I think is very interesting. It's called The Forever Winter, and in it, you are not the hero. You are like there is a war going on. It's a sci-fi, like very grim, dark war that's going on, and you are just trying to get water or maybe food.
Amazing.
Or like, and you're like, and most of the time, if the bad guys see you, if the people out there, as long as you don't look like a threat, they don't even bother wasting ammunition on you. So it's
Sure.
about trying to like sneak from place to place and not draw too much attention and find stuff and bring it back. And every once in a while, you have to shoot like a drone that kind of got away from it yet because you need a part from his side. But if you do it while other drones are looking, you're screwed because you just can't, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's
like
the
a small
opposite.
story happening as part of the larger.
Oh,
There's some bigger
yeah.
thing in the background, but you're not the hero, as it were.
Exactly.
You have a protagonist, but not the hero. Yes.
Mhm.
And there are, like obviously like walking sims and stuff like that aren't power fantasies. I'm just, I want to be clear that I'm aware other types of games exist.
Mhm.
But at any rate, the easiest way I can explain this is like this, like where the biggest delta for this. And that's why I say it should be called Space Marines or a lie, because the biggest delta is Space Marines. That's the biggest one I can think of.
Mhm.
And Space Marines in the lore and like our outsized perception of them in the story and how they're generally portrayed is, there is but one Space Marine for each world of the Imperium, but it is enough, right? Or whatever.
Sure.
That they're like, they go through all this process and they become these, demigods. Even the basic Space Marine is worth like 100 soldiers, 1,000 soldiers, whatever.
Oh yeah,
right?
It's a 1 in a million, basically, sort of situation.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Because like, in the story, I don't remember how many people they kill to get like one actual Space Marine, but like that's part of the story, right? Is like the drug regimen and everything they put these people through.
When you're like, okay, well, you can try to be a Space Marine and you die trying.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
that regimen, that process kills like X number of whatever people for every one Space Marine you manufacture. Well, here's the trick: if the Space Marine isn't worth that number of people, if they can't kill or be as effective as that number of people just holding guns, then that's stupid,
Mhm.
right? Just send all of those people to the Imperial Guard and can the Space Marine program because it's a failure, right? If it takes like 10 people to make a Space Marine, which is, by the way, it's not even close. I know it's like some way high crazy number.
Sure, exactly.
That's just stupid right out of the gate. Okay. But in the lore, they are portrayed as being worth like 1,000 people. Right.
Yeah.
And you and I both watched that Secret Level episode that was on Amazon, all about 40K.
Yeah, Amazon Prime. There's a show called Secret Level, and each episode was about different video games.
The Pac-Man one was the best.
Pac-Man was weird. I don't know.
That's
I kind of liked the Space Marine one a little bit better, but the Pac-Man one's not bad. But there's a couple that were like, oh, that's not very good. But no, there's some pretty good ones. And the Space Marine one is based off the Space Marine video game. And I would say it was probably it was an absolute show of here is the power fantasy writ large. And then
they glazed those Space Marines so hard.
Oh, absolutely. And the people who have played the tabletop game enough know how that is just complete fabrication. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes. And like, I understand that like people are going to come back in the comments and they're going to say, well, when you hear it in the narrative and in the lore, they're unreliable narrators, and that's like the Space Marines and the that's like basically they're saying that's propaganda.
Sure.
And like, again, I say fine, but if it's not, if the Space Marines aren't as good as 10 or 20 or 100 or 1,000 people or whatever it is, then it's a dumb program and they should stop it.
Right.
And they should cancel all Space Marines and just send those 100 or 1,000 or whatever people to the Imperial Guard because it'd be way more valuable. Okay. And but like in that show, in that episode, Titus, who I guess is like the character from the video game. I've never played the video game.
Yep.
He shoulder checks a vehicle, some kind of Jeep, like to me, they were like Gene Stealer cult or something like that. But I don't know.
They were some sort of cultist guys. Yeah,
cultists.
They were like chaos cultists for sure. And he smashes a vehicle with his body. And sure,
yes, he just like walks. He's running toward it. It is a clearly multi-ton vehicle,
like an APC.
Yes.
Yeah.
Moving at him at high speed, and he runs at it and puts his shoulder down and checks it. Okay, that's what happens.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, cool, man. If that's what they can do, that seems awesome.
Right. No.
Okay.
Seems unbalanced.
So in the game, I assume I only get like 7 Space Marines. right?
You know, it's funny because I've played games where I've had Space Marines that have been killed by orc boys who cost
Mm,
like 5 points.
yes.
Or I've had, like we were talking about this before the episode. I've had this idea for a while, and maybe someone else will steal it. That's fine, whatever. I've been a slacker on it. But I think that, like Sam and I have talked about this for a while. One of us takes 3 Primaris Marines, or 4. I forget how many are in the actual show. If it's 3 or 4. And the other one takes as many Chaos Cultists as we can get. And then we play a game where it's 3 or 4 Space Marines, Primaris Space Marines, versus all those cultists, and find out how quickly the Primaris guys die under weight of fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
sure.
that's the
Sure.
trick. They are not impervious. If they were, the game would be no fun. That would be no fun because everybody would take the near impervious guys. But
Sure.
like I swear to God, there's a point in that video, in that episode, where like a cultist shoots one of them in the head directly. Like the guy grabs him and the
Yeah.
cultist shoots him with a pistol at point blank range, and he just turns and looks at him and then squashes him with his hand or something like that.
Correct.
And I'm
That is
like,
exactly what happened.
what do I
yes.
have to roll to squash a guy with my hand? I don't remember that. That's not a thing that's in the game. But
I doubt you ever watched it, but they did like a Blood Angels series series on the stupid Warhammer TV or Warhammer Plus or whatever it's called. I don't subscribe to that. Okay, but like they
No.
released some of the episodes for free.
Was it like super just like black and white and red?
Yeah, black and white.
I maybe
and red,
saw
yes,
a clip
exactly.
on YouTube once, but I don't think I ever saw any.
Okay.
Of that. I haven't done.
There's
the
an
Warhammer
episode
Plus.
where one of the Space Marine tech priests, something like that,
Yeah.
he's in a hallway like down in the lower part of one of their big ships, right?
Mhm.
And a bunch of cultists or something breach the ship.
Right.
And he's like typing on a terminal. He's got his little arms, his extra hands or arms or whatever.
All
Again,
those
I don't know
extra
Space Marine very well.
robot arms. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got his like robot parts. But he's like a Blood Angels guy or whatever. And he's
Right.
like tippy tapping away.
Mhm.
And all the cultists are like, he's in a hallway and all the cultists are running down a perpendicular hallway. And some of them turn and see him.
Right.
And they start firing down the hallway at him, of course, right? And he's just standing there and keeps working. As like tink to tink, tink, tink to tink, tink,
Sure,
tink,
yeah,
everything
yeah.
is just bouncing off. It's irrelevant, right? He's just in the rain,
Mhm.
basically,
Yeah.
right? And then one of them fires a rocket launcher at him, okay? And he just goes, again, I wish people could see this, but he just goes,
And just leans back and it
yes, he
passes
just
his
leans
head.
back
Yeah.
casually
Yeah.
as this rocket zips by him. And he pulls out like a plasma pistol and he clearly overcharges it. Like you hear like the like real power up if he's clicking something extra.
Right.
And then he just like fires once down the hall and blows them all up. And then like he just like calls back up to the bridge and he's like, there's heavy fire down here. I'm coming back to you. And just like turns and walks away casually.
Right,
And I'm
yeah,
just like, okay.
It's a good thing he
Okay,
didn't roll a
buddy.
1. That would have been a very different scene in that situation.
Yes.
But yeah, it's funny to like see that kind of stuff and know that that's the type of things that happen in the books as well and all that kind of stuff. And then to actually play the game and look at the rules and to understand like, oh, that's not, again, one of the big deals about balancing the story versus balancing the rules, you don't want to balance the story frequently, but you do want to balance the rules because otherwise
Yep.
it's not a fun game to play. You know what I mean? If you're not playing the Space Marines, it's a hoot probably if you're the Space Marines or whatever in this situation versus, the myriad cultists. But if you're the guy who's playing the cultists, you're like, oh man, why am I even here? You know what I mean? That's kind of the idea.
Yeah, like I suspect that like the Space Marines are portrayed at minimum probably like Custodes play, right? And Custodes are portrayed like Primarchs are portrayed in the rules. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
I
Like,
mean,
or what, or in the story or whatever.
In the story, it's always been that the Grey Knights, like if a Space Marine is 1 in a million people, then a Grey Knight is supposed to be 1 in a million Space Marines. And you're like, okay, so let me see if I get this straight. You have this 1 in a million thing, and then you take a million of them, and then you go, well, that guy gets to be a Grey Knight. And you're like, okay, that's cool. I just killed him with
a grot. A grot stabbed him to death.
A grot stabbed him to death because he rolled 6 twice or something like that.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I've lost Terminators back when I used to play 40K to grots. It happens. And you're just like, okay, sure.
Sometimes you roll a
By the
1
way-
for your armor save. That's just what happens.
Yeah, by the way, fantasy is not immune to this.
Mm-hmm.
Fantasy is not immune to this.
Oh no.
You know, in fantasy, there's like the Varangard. They're like
The big giant horse guys. Yep, absolutely.
yeah, they're like Archeon's chosen.
I
Right?
built 3 of them, and I have the scars to prove it.
Sure.
They're very
and their
pointy.
backstory is like Chaos Lords themselves are 1 in a million. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And from the Chaos Lords, 1 in, you know, a million Chaos Lords is powerful enough to become a Varangard. I'm like, okay, guys.
Right. Calm
Come
down.
on.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's take it down a notch here.
Yeah.
All right. You know, like just put that on the world's population and you'd be like, yeah, there's like 7 of these guys, right?
Right. I mean, in the Imperium, there's a lot more people to choose from.
Sure,
I get that.
of course.
But still, the whole deal is to sell books, but you also still need to sell the game. And that is when you are coming up with lore and story, you know, so here's a question. Why is it that GW doesn't get more pushback on that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, because people really love the power fantasy. I don't know. Here's why I think it matters, right?
Right.
Why it matters is it creates ludonarrative dissonance. And I think the players have just come to accept it.
Mhm.
But I think that like where GW succeeds is that the Space Marine, that thing is just like such a crazy power fantasy for people.
Right.
Right. In the way it's portrayed. And yeah, if you play the game, the rules don't feel like that. Okay. They just don't.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
And it creates super ludonarrative dissonance, right? It's just like ludonarrative dissonance just means when the story and the themes differs from the like play experience and the rules. Right?
See, I wasn't going to ask because I totally knew that, but I thought it would be important for other people to know that if they didn't know that.
It was originally coined for like video games
Mhm.
where, you know, you've got like the most common way this will come up is you'll have something like Lara Croft is like haunted and she has to like, you know, in the intro cutscene, she like kills an animal or a person or something like that. It like haunts her and she's scarred emotionally by it.
Right.
And then you go to gameplay and she's just like mowing down people left
yeah.
and right. And it's just like, whatever.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
that kind of
Yeah.
thing, right. That's ludonarrative dissonance.
Yeah, exactly.
And so to me, this is like the great example of it. I don't know why this is okay. I really don't know. I hate it. Like, it's why I think Space Marines are dumb because either they're as cool as they say they are or they're not.
Right.
And
exactly. And that's
when you play them, you're like, they're not.
Right.
They're just kind of better armored people.
Because I played Space Marines in let's see here. I started with Tau in 5th edition 40K, and then I moved to Chaos Space Marines, which are like Space Marines, they're just evidently not as good. And then I moved to regular Space Marines in 8th. And then I played them also in 10th a little bit. I played Combat Patrol of Space Marines, mostly Terminators, honestly, frequently versus Sam's Tyranids. And yeah, they're not, you know, they're not necessarily able to go through and just completely slaughter their way to victory because, you know, they're not impervious. I honestly will lose an entire squad of Primaris guys with flamers to some bugs that shot some snot at them from a distance, you know, and that happened a lot. You know what I mean? So yeah.
By the way,
that wouldn't
again,
happen
this happens. This happens over in AOS world as well, not just with things like Varangard or stuff like that, but like big named characters. You can play the gods effectively in AOS, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, in the books, they're portrayed as just, or in the story or whatever, they're portrayed as, you know, very, 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 very powerful beings above the concerns of you know, these normal troopers, right? But the reality is the most likely thing to sort of kill most of these god models is usually just like a bunch of zombies or something swarming them.
Right.
And it's just like, yeah, okay. Got them.
Like, as an example of us not exactly doing that in one of our games, just off the cuff that I can think about, is the necromancers in Death Wizards.
Yes, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about how we view this. Okay, yeah, absolutely. So this is, I let me set one thing up first here real quick, and then I'll come back to it. I think when you're designing games, when you're writing a game, you have to think very carefully about how you're portraying the characters that the PCs are going to take the role of. Okay. And if they're meant to be gods and then and like unbeatable champions or whatever, and then in the game they just like die or are barely any stronger than the normal things they're fighting, what are you doing? Right?
Right,
You just like
exactly.
failed at the basic theming of the game. So this is something I actually take pretty seriously when we write our games, because like ludonarrative dissonance really bothers me.
Right.
And I think like good top-down design can fight it, by the way, because if you start with, simple guiding principles as we've talked about before and then design the game to match that, it will
Mhm.
feel correct.
Mhm.
But at any rate, our games, first of all, don't tend to feature these like unbeatable, godly, powerful protagonists for the most part.
No, I
Right?
mean, to be
We
honest,
tend to
many
put
of our games, especially when you're playing solo or co-op, are actually kind of tough.
Yeah, we put people on the back foot. I find like the struggle more interesting, right?
Mhm.
Of somebody like rising up and starting from humble beginnings and having to fight their way through difficult situations and so on and so forth. So you think like Space Station Zero, Majestic 13, even Repent Ye Foolish Gods, right? Like you're generally on the back foot in
Mhm.
all of these things. Now, you're right. The exception was Death Wizards, right? In Death Wizards, your necromancer is an immortal spellcaster. That is the core conceit of the game. Cannot die.
Cannot die.
Yes.
Right. However,
However,
he can be knocked out of the game and come back later.
correct.
Right.
But you can lose. And so it was really important when we wrote the rules for that, when we were working on that game, right? Because that was one of the core conceits of the game. And when I initially brought that to you, I know we had a lot of discussion about it, right? Of like, how do you have a model in a game that you can't lose?
Right.
Right? That's just like fundamentally breaking sort of one of the core tenets of wargaming.
Well,
And
because
yet,
so many
I think
of
it
the rest,
absolutely works.
so many of the rest of our games, you are one of a crew. You have a crew of people, and if you lose one, Now in Majestic 13, we fixed that by saying if you lose one of your team of 5, you come back next round with a clone.
Mhm.
And then we made, well, maybe it's not a perfect copy. You know what I mean? And so we made a chart that you roll on and all that kind of stuff, and that was fine. But with the necromancer being like the leader and everybody else being basically kind of replaceable, if he got killed, then that would end the game generally and
Yep.
end your run. And we didn't want to make it so roguelike because people would be like, well, this is really hard. But if you lose the guy and then, well, I'll be back again later. I mean, it's the same type of thing that you see, honestly, in comic books and cartoons and things like that. Like, how many times has Team Rocket had to have been thwarted by that weird little kid and his electric rabbit or whatever and all that kind of stuff? I mean, they come back again later on, even though they shot off into the stratosphere or whatever. Somehow the Palpatine returned, and so it's a way to get around the story, but still make the game make sense rules wise.
Yeah, and it's funny to me, right? Because in the story, what often people, when you look at something like the Space Marines, because they're like so powerful, I think like people always talk about Superman. And one of the things y'all hear all the time is Superman is a boring character because he's too powerful. This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I hate this so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Okay.
The power level or the capability of a character intersects with your ability to tell a good story with that character 0%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're a hack, all right, and can't write, then that's fine. Like Death Wizards is a good example of how to do the Superman thing correctly. Our central character is an immortal spellcaster who can like wither people to death with a spell. They act more than any other character. They are more powerful. They are tougher. They cannot die. They have more capabilities than any model in the game, friendly or enemy.
Right.
Right. But you can lose that game quite easily. Right. Because your minions get chopped up and destroyed and you have no way to complete what's going on. So you can have Superman can still lose, even if he doesn't die or get beat to a pulp, right? Because the things he cares about can suffer. He can fail to achieve his goals and so on and so forth, right?
Plus, there's always kryptonite. There's always
kryptonite.
You know what I mean? That's always that's the play. Like, it's rare that anyone beats him without the kryptonite, generally, unless that person is also another Superman or of some flavor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which is why All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison is the greatest Superman story ever told. I will stand behind this. It has basically nothing to do with kryptonite and is an incredible story.
I don't think
Anyways,
I've read that at all. I've never been a
it's-
Superman guy, honestly, but that's fine.
Anybody who reads this, you'll become a Superman guy. Let me just
Gotcha.
say that.
Okay.
At any rate, the point I'm trying to make here is that when you're thinking about the nature of your game, I think for a lot of people, you won't have to worry about this too much. Like if your game is about like a plucky group of, ne'er-do-wells who are like you're making a pirate game,
Sure.
right? And it's a plucky group of ne'er-do-well pirates who are like sailing the seas and trying to rob other ships.
Mhm.
Okay, well, you didn't portray them as like super gods, ultra powerful people. So
Right.
you just like do that. Just make them get in cool pirate fights and swing from the ropes and board other ships and find treasure and whiskey and rum and stuff, and you're good to go. Right? That's done. Okay, great. Whatever. Why is the rum always gone?
I don't know.
But if you are trying to like portray powerful central figures, right? Like if the role the players are going to take, if they're characters, their point of view, the things they're piloting in the game
Mhm.
are meant to be like powerful, more powerful than like the average, whatever the average is of that setting. You need to have the players feel that. That matters, right?
Mhm.
And I think this is interesting as well because it causes different challenges in different types of games. So let me unpack what I mean here. A versus game, you have a different challenge than you do in a solo game. Okay?
Oh, completely.
Yeah. So in a versus game, if everyone is meant to be super powerful monsters, which is kind of how 40K is,
Sure.
not completely. Like obviously the Imperial Guard are meant to be whatever, and so on.
They're supposed to be powerful with their numbers.
Yeah. Then no one is, right? If everyone's super, no one is, right?
Mhm.
Syndrome or whatever from Incredibles. So like if you're just super people slamming up against each other, then you don't really feel it as much. And it's not like it's fine. You can set the story that way, but everybody's just going to feel super powerful unless you like vary the power levels of the individual forces by contrasting numbers. That's how
Sure.
you would do that. Right? Exactly
It's-
what you just said.
It's like in games when they decide, oh, well, in this particular scenario, there's a huge storm that does X, and then it affects everybody, and then everybody, let's say, is at short range all the time or whatever, because they can't see very far. Well, if everybody can't see very far, then why did we bother? A little bit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like that. Like,
Yeah. If it's completely uniform, if it's
Right.
like this super powerful group, it fights this super powerful group. It's a versus game, and it's like all just basically demigods fighting each other.
Right.
All you've done is just reset the baseline up.
Exactly.
No one's going to feel incredibly powerful,
Mhm.
right?
You've made a pinball machine, and every time a noise gets made, you get 1,000,000 points. Well, you've just basically made it so that the game has to count higher. That's it. Otherwise, it's no different than any other game.
Yes.
And like that can be fun if you're doing a single player or like we've never done a game quite like that where the idea is to just absolutely destroy the AIs. You know what I mean? Like that scene in the beginning of the first Lord of the Rings movie where you see like where Sauron originally lost the ring and he's just going through the crowd with that giant
smashing
mace
through people with
and
that
just
mace.
like knocking people for hundreds of feet and stuff like that. Like that would be a fun game only if you were Sauron, right? If you were playing against AIs, that'd be super fun to just go through and just absolutely just belt folks. But if you were the guy playing the guys getting belted, you'd be like, this sort of sucks, man. I don't really like this.
Honestly, the reverse of that is Majestic 13. That's what we made.
Somewhat, yeah, to some degree.
Right?
Yeah,
where you have one ultra powerful figure against like the people in Majestic 13. They're souped up humans. Like they have gear and some, tech and stuff like that. But you're prey to those aliens. Right? Like one-on-one, you would just get dumpstered.
Right.
Okay. And that was the whole idea of the thing. But by working as a team and working together and working smart, you can take down the larger, more powerful foe.
Right.
Okay. And Yeah, I mean, when you're in a versus situation and that's how you're defining it, you really want to think about like, well, if I'm going to define group A or player choice A as being these like really powerful people, then there has to be some way in the game to express that. There has to be weaker things in the game for them to fight against, but maybe they're more numerous, right? Or whatever. Like if you're
Mhm.
going to have the big, powerful, crazy, strong orcs, then you got to have little weedy goblins or something or whatever,
Right.
right?
Right.
Now, in a solo game, but it's all has to be balanced, right? That's before I go to solo game, I'll say this. The last thing in versus is it all has to be balanced. Like I have to be able to take any force, including the demigod models or the gang of idiots, right?
Right.
The gang of
Mhm.
little goobers, and have them be equally effective in whatever the game rules are. Otherwise, the versus game isn't very good.
That's why there's points. That's why there's balance. That's why people talk about balance and how this game's not balanced and all. And it's yeah, all that comes from making versus games. Rarely do people complain about solo and co-op games not being balanced unless you just keep getting dumpstered by the AI all the time. And then that can happen. Lord knows. You can set it up the game so that it's almost impossible to win. And then that's also not necessarily fun for some folks.
Yeah, that's the Dark Souls
Mhm.
model, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah.
that's where it's just like you are really it's tough. Now, unless you're all solo or whatever, that dude who was just like made all those famous videos about going around and killing all the bosses or whatever, the guy with the fishbowl on his head. I don't know. I don't play that game. I mean, like I'm aware of the concept or whatever from social
Sure.
media.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're absolutely right. In a solo game, you can. This was effectively repent, right? Like one on one, the warriors of repent are usually stronger than any enemy other than a champion, right?
Right.
The only sort of enemy that's actually on par with your warriors is a champion. But there are a lot of them. There are a lot of those enemies, right? Now
Mhm.
you can like clean up just tons of them by unleashing big powerful spells and going on a rampage and just like slicing your way through multiple different people in a turn and stuff like that. That's all things you can do, but there is an absolute swarm of them. Like
Yeah.
and that's how it's balanced, and they're all dangerous, right? You are powerful, but you're not like super durable or tough.
Quantity is its own quality. That's
Yes,
that's really the
indeed.
way it works, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So like I think you've just got more freedom in a solo game to like actually define the power fantasy in some way. You can make the super powerful people and make people feel it by how the AI acts, responds to them, the number of enemies, how powerful those enemies are, because it doesn't have to be quote unquote exactly what you said, balanced
Mhm.
in the same way,
Right.
right? You can actually have easier missions. That's okay.
Yeah. Like, I mean, honestly, early on, you want to go in that direction. You want things to be a little bit easier because sometimes you want to lull the players into a false sense of security, if anything. You know what I mean? And like really get them to be like, oh, okay, well, I guess, and there's a benefit to that because then it definitely ramps up as you go. And then
Yeah,
you start to feel it. And winning when you get further along feels like it's something that you really had to work at to make happen. You know what I mean?
exactly. I think there's like a lot of value to that uh to that overall, because there's also a question when you're designing the game of what does the play experience over time look like.
Mhm.
So what I mean is if the power fantasy is you start out as the super crazy demigod, that's a pretty easy like one play game, right?
Mhm.
I mean, you can grow or eventually go fight more powerful things, like crazy powerful things. Again, to reference Repent, our most recent game, you're eventually literally fighting the gods. That's the end of the game,
Right.
right? So we went ahead and took that scaling all the way to the cap, as it were,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But like, I think one of the things that I don't like in a game. So I grew up playing old school video game role playing games, right? Like, did you ever play like Dragon Warrior or Dragon Quest as it was originally named or stuff like that? Those really like early role playing games where you like wandered around the countryside killing
Yeah.
slimes and stuff.
A friend of mine played those a lot and I watched a lot.
Sure. Very.
Fantasy Star and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Fantasy Star mentioned greatest role playing game of all time. Okay. Anyways, this is not what this is about, Vince. Control yourself. Control yourself. Okay. So I have nostalgia for like exactly 3 things, and one of them is Phantasy Star.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
At any rate, yes. That was the other. That was also. It's funny that you mentioned that. So did I. I grew up like not only playing those, but watching other people play.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like that was a thing you did. The console only let one player play most of those games, so you just sat there and watched your friend play.
I was completely unsurprised when Twitch started to get big because I would have friends be like, who wants to watch someone else play video games? And then I would just think back to the mid 90s when I got a PlayStation 1 and I lived with these two guys, and our friend Sean was one of them. And Sean would just sit there and play Tomb Raider, which you mentioned earlier,
Sure.
and then play for a while, which is a single player game, and then be like turn around because Sean was sitting like cross legged on the floor in front of the TV, and we'd be sitting on the couch, having some beers or whatever, and then Sean would be like, "You guys want to play it?" We're like, "No, you just keep. Yeah, we're just," and you'd be like, "Hey, you should go on that thing," and a little bit, and it's just that's exactly what Twitch is. So yeah,
Yes.
watching people playing video games is, in my opinion, not weird at all. It totally is a thing.
100% agreed. A big part of my young life was watching my buddy Poke. Shout out to Poke. That was his name. Who was playing Dragon Warrior and would I just watch him wander around the countryside fighting monsters for like hours. Okay. But anyways, in those games, you're starting very weak. You grow very powerful over time. Right. And the neat part about the games was they could make you feel that in different ways. Because you could go, yes, you're generally the monsters, like the tougher areas you would go into would have tougher monsters. But you could go back to the early areas and fight monsters, and you would just like rip through these guys, right? You are far beyond them now.
Oh, absolutely. It's just like any kind of MMO, RPG, where if you go back to the starting areas after your whatever level, then those rattling, whatever,
Sure.
they don't scare you at all. They're gray now. They're no longer like, you don't get any XP for killing them.
I bet everybody who played WoW and played whatever the good guys were, wasn't it? The Alliance, I guess, whatever.
Yeah, I think it's Alliance.
So like outside of their main castle, there was an elite, like little pig man who wandered around named Hogger. Okay. And there was a bunch of like normal dudes you'd kill for quests, but then just like mixed in was this very tougher, like clearly leader of that group. And I'm sure he's killed thousands and thousands of people. Right?
Sure.
I know what I did, and I'm sure my experience wasn't alone, that when I got more powerful, I just went back and I was like, oh yeah, who's in charge now, Hogger? Let me show you what's up, you little moron. Right? And just killed him for no reason.
Sure, yeah.
Because like revenge, now who is powerful, you little pig man?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Like that, my point is because you can live the power fantasy in a very real way over time. And that's why some of our games have used those like sort of choose your own mission thing. Right. So that as you get more powerful in the game, if you just need to like, I don't know, grind is the sort of crass way to say it, but maybe you just want to get some loot, build yourself up before you go to a tougher battle, something like that. Yeah. You can go play an easier battle. And people have asked me, like, is that intentional that I just go back and whoop those guys? And I'm like, yeah. It's absolutely, yes, you're powerful now. Feel the benefits of that. You worked hard to do so. You put time into this. You should feel some kind of reward for it, right?
Right.
I think that's what's interesting when you map it over like a campaign. The power fantasy becomes much more easy to actually make real. In a one-off game, especially a versus game, it's way harder.
I was just going to say that because you are generally playing, if you're, like if we're going back to say 40K again, since, we're talking about Space Marines, like your Space Marines don't get any tougher generally. Like
right.
There is, I know, conquest mode or something you can play these days that's, and it gives you like a couple of little bonuses here and there. But when you're playing a game that's designed from the ground up to be a campaign style game, still sticking with GW, talk about Mordheim. Your Mordheim group individually gets cool weapons and neat things. Same with Necromunda. Like, oh, this guy's got a new power and he's no longer a prospect. He's now a full ganger. And since he's a ganger in the new version of Necromunda, that means he's a specialist. So now you get to pick, oh, is he a medic? Is he a gunner? Is he a brawler? Like all these different things. And so like that type of stuff to me is a lot more interesting than just like, hey, I've got, an army and you've got an army and we're just going to fight. And that's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not what I'm looking for in the experience. But having that storytelling experience as you grow is what allows you to be able to bring in more of that power fantasy versus well, I've got Space Marines and they're the best. And like, well, this orc player also thinks that orcs are the best. And so now I guess we're going to find out. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, like in playing Trench Crusade and obviously doing a campaign, the difference between when I played my court and had the Desecrated Saint and he was just like the normal guy that I started with versus when he then ticked the level and became like advanced and became what's the name of it? When you tick up into the better category.
I can't think of it off the top of my head either.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Where he doesn't just die on a 1 or 2. He's not a basic troop anymore at the end of the game. Suddenly he's like, he can actually just take injuries and or gain stuff and advance. Like the difference when that happened in the feel of that warband was crazy, right? Like suddenly I was like, oh yeah, this guy's going to go mess some people up. Let's go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of the final thing that I wanted to talk about, which is deltas within the individual construction, like within your individual warband group, crew, whatever, right? That's another way you can play with the power fantasy is you can have like some individual model that is way bigger, tougher, scarier, harder to bring down, more destructive, whatever, right? A big monster, a big thing. Like you can take this one weird thing, right? But it often has like limitations. It's dumb. It doesn't advance. Whatever, it has limited actions. Like there's all sorts of interesting ways you can balance it out.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have
cost on point
with Death Wizards. We didn't, your undead minions couldn't get better,
right?
I mean, as you went along, you could control more points worth of them, so you could take the bigger, more powerful ones. Like early on, I can take skeletons, but you couldn't take a giant skeleton. But eventually you could. And then Giant Skeleton was like, whoa. But the Giant Skeleton also doesn't eventually go like, ding, oh, I'm smarter now. Or I'm, craftier now. Or I can, I don't know. I'm stealthier. You're a giant skeleton. You're not stealthy at all. You know what I mean? And that was the benefit. The people, in the game, the power ratcheting up was on the Necromancer and not on the figures.
Yep.
But in other games, it's, it depends. And so you can kind of balance things that way.
With the exception of the Stitcher, who could manipulate his people.
Well, sure, but that was his. That was
I know
his, again.
I just wanted to throw that out there,
That's
so I don't
true.
get on. Actually,
that was his special power, and being able to kind of twist that stuff and change things. Like I remember back in the day when we used to play on the PC, Neverwinter Nights. Did you ever play Neverwinter Nights? Yeah,
of course.
And I remember. I don't know if I've told this story before. We were playing at a friend's house. It was my wife and I. We brought our PCs and a couple other people. And so we were playing like a big LAN party over at our friend's house. And we were there for like the weekend. And on the first day when we first started playing, I was playing as a magic user. So I'm like a first level magic user. And I'm just like, guys, there's a dog. It's looking at me, and I was just like, everything could kill me. And it was, just rough business. And so I was constantly like dying and they'd have to res me or whatever, or they'd have to protect me. And it was all this kind of stuff. But by like Sunday afternoon, we'd walk into a new area and I'd just be like, everybody just sit here for a second, will you? And then I would just light everything on fire with fireballs and firewalls and all kinds of stuff like that. Because at that point I was like 16th or 17th level and I was just wrecking shop. And then we would all go in and check and see what was still alive. And then, that was fine. And that's also something, and you used to see that in Diablo as well.
Sure.
Like the early days, like the barbarians and the really melee guys were really tough. And then eventually, like you get your necromancer up to the point where he would just like explode all the corpses and kill everything in the room and then just make a mess. And then what was left was, probably picked off by the barbarian.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And having that kind of variation within your group is also an interesting thing. They don't all have to be equally powerful or equally not powerful.
Agreed. And I think in summary, as we come here to a close, what I'll say is, I think this is actually like an underrated area where designers need to think about very carefully. Like, are you designing a solo versus instead of a versus game? Are you including a campaign mode? And what is the power fantasy you're actually trying to portray? And then how do you translate that into the rules? Because to me, yeah, people may be willing to accept that with Space Marines. Like for whatever reason, they're cool enough. I guess it's okay.
People love
But
it.
I do think this kind of thing matters to people when they play a game. If something feels off, you're just less likely to want to come back and play the game again. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and by off, you mean not like, oh, this guy's overpowered versus this guy. You're just like, this guy
If
doesn't.
they read the story of the thing
Right.
and got into it because it sounded cool, and then they play it and the rules don't do that or feel like that, that's a problem. They're going to be like, oh, I thought this was going to be this experience, but actually it's that experience. That's no good.
I don't want to say that we're smarter than we are, but I think that's one of the reasons we don't put that much lore into our games, because then
Sure.
it's all happening up here. It's all happening in your head. And you'd be like, well, those guys are just as powerful as you thought they were. You know, whatever you thought, that's what it was. We didn't say, oh my God, they're so awesome. And then it turned out they weren't. You just cut back on the lore a little bit, give them a taste, give them a little bit of this and go, hey, try this out. But then after that, let them headcanon. Headcanon does a lot of heavy lifting, I think. Well, thank you very much for checking out this episode of the SNARLcast. We hope we were able to teach you something. If you've got suggestions for future topics or for video games that we should play, I guess, I don't know, or whatever, then hit us up in the comments below. If you're
what do
watching this
you
on
think
YouTube.
captured the power fantasy the best? I don't mean to interrupt Adam, but there
that's
you
a
go.
good-
That's my suggestion for a comment down below.
That's
What's
very
the
good.
best, like where the rules matched the power fantasy? I want to know.
Absolutely.
Video game, tabletop game, anything. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. We should have mentioned that earlier. But please check out our website at snarlingbadger.com/snarlcast for more information and for more episodes. Follow us on your podcast software of choice. Leave a review if you get the chance, and we appreciate your time.
Bye-bye.